Yo, what's up guys, we're back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to take better photos with your Lumix G7. There aren't very much videos on this particular topic, so I decided I'm going to give it my little 2 cents. I've been shooting with this Lumix G7 for a little while now, about a year or two. You guys can go ahead and check out my Instagram at naturalkid808, where I have basically all the good photos. All the good photos they're taken with the Lumix G7. So I'm going to show you guys a few tips and tricks that I've been using, and a few things that I've learned along the way that kind of just help. Number one, I would say you guys need to simply understand that this is a crop frame sensor camera. It came out as a competitor to some of the bigger DSLR bodies, and mainly just a video camera, a really cheap, very capable video camera. That's what it's really meant for, and most people don't really use it for photos. And people who have used it for photos usually have had mediocre success. Whereas for me, I've actually had some pretty decent success with it. Number one thing I do is understand that it is a crop frame sensor camera. So I know I'm not going to be able to get the craziest quality, period. But whatever I'm going to get, I'm going to maximize it. Just know that the photos out of the camera are not going to be that great, and you're going to have to do a lot of work in post. Also, the fact that it is a mirrorless camera just tells me that it is going to be easy to use, because I don't have to constantly keep adjusting my exposure and things like that I would with a DSLR, yet I can still get similar quality as opposed to, you know, using a point and shoot or something like that, or using my cell phone. Also, it's interchangeable lens, which means I can use different lenses. Number two, this is kind of a general rule that should go without saying, but because this is such a cheap camera, you might be tempted to do something like this. Do not get a micro SD, try to put that into an adapter, and then put it into your camera. Just get the full-size SD card. Some weird problems tend to occur. You're reading and you're writing. It doesn't matter if you're using the fastest micro SD card. It slows down the process. It's more points of contact that have to be met. The camera just doesn't work well. It should go without saying, but I had to learn the hard way. Number 3, the lens. If you're taking portraits just in general, you're going to want to use a good sharp lens. My lens is the 25mm 1.7, which is good enough, low enough aperture just to give me some decent background blur. It's a prime lens, which means there's no zoom, and it's the lens that I'm actually using right now, which is not the best for video because everything tends to be very zoomed in. It's even more zoomed in than the kit lens. I really don't know what other lenses are good lenses for the G7, honestly. I've just had very good success with this one. Number 4, you're gonna want to shoot in RAW, okay? A lot of people tend to shoot in JPEG, and then the thing is, even if the photos coming out of the camera are like really good, at least looking at them, they're really good, they're always gonna be better in post, and at least that's how I think of it. Personally, I always think objectively of the photos that are coming out of the camera, regardless of how good they look or how bad they look. I know that I can make them look fantastic in post, so that's why I'm preparing for post by shooting in RAW. Well, I want to make sure that I'm not shooting in JPEG and that I'm shooting in RAW to get the most quality out of that frame as possible. I think you can do it in other modes, I'm not really sure. The thing is, the camera has so many different modes to cater to a lot of different kinds of photographers. For me, I'm mainly just a portrait photographer, and then I do a little bit of video. So I only use the video mode on the dial, on the mode dial, and I use capture mode, mostly, mainly, or manual. Now, getting into shooting, after you prepare your camera, getting into shooting. Number 5, you're gonna wanna shoot in the best light possible for this camera, the crop frame sensor, this particular lens. The camera just works the best in the best lighting conditions possible. And for me, honestly, I am not really one to shoot with too much artificial light unless it's video. I would prefer always natural lighting over artificial lighting, especially with this camera. I just think it doesn't really work good with artificial light. I have some photos where you can see artificial lighting. Personally, I don't know how to deal with it. In this particular photo, I was using a reflector reflecting the sun's light, and it just didn't work out for me. I didn't like it. In other photos, the lighting it made sense to me, and I was able to color grade it and edit the exposure to the point where I felt comfortable and it looked natural and normal and consistent and things like that. So indoors, I don't think this camera works good if you're taking photos indoors. But then again, I did need some extra lighting, like soft boxes and stuff, some kind of LED light, ring light, something. I never had very good success shooting indoors. Even using a ring light, I was never able to really take advantage of that. But, you know, maybe there's some things I could learn yet. Another thing too is I'm ever learning with this camera, and ever seen what it's capable of doing. Number 6, if you're shooting a model, for instance, and you want like really good background blur, you have to shoot in the lowest possible aperture. If you're shooting in capture mode, some of the settings are very automatic and will adjust. So you might want to go to manual mode and really make sure that you're in control of all of your settings. Again, the advantage with shooting with a mirrorless camera is that it does a lot of the work for you, whereas with a DSLR you have no option for automatic features. Everything is manual, you're in full control, so you have to have the knowledge and know exactly what you're doing. With this camera, it makes it a lot easier, but it still has the same full capability to go full manual. So you're not really losing anything. If you're a much more premier, professional person, you have that mindset, whatever, then you could definitely go full manual. What I've noticed is sometimes I really want to shoot in 1.7 and it just goes up to 1.8, 1.92, 2.2, something like that. And that's just because it makes more sense in that particular situation. The camera, it has, computers, sensors, all that sort of stuff, and it's just going to work. If you want, you can go to manual mode for that. So I've been caught many times, I have this excellent image, everything's in focus, it looks great, perfect angle, model's perfect. I'm looking on the viewfinder and the image looks good, so I think I'm good. Later I blow it up on the computer screen and it's like, oh man. And you see it in Lightroom and it's like, I shot this in 2.2 as opposed to 1.7, I thought it was 1.7. So I missed out on my background blur and I was just like, oh man. So if you want that background blur, just make sure that you're shooting in at least 1.7. Also, this particular lens is not very good for shooting subjects from far away. I have some photos where I was far away from my subject and the background blur, and I focused in on my subject and the background blur just wasn't that great. And I have some closer shots where I'm focused on the subject and the background blur is very good. That's about it for shooting with the camera and preparation for shooting with the camera. The next step is in post, what you do with it in Lightroom or Adobe Photoshop or whatever photo editing software you choose to use, as long as it accepts raw files. Windows readers, they can't read the raw images, so you want to make sure that you package your images in folders that where it is, time and dates and everything. I had to make sure I knew that, and I learned the hard way. In post, what I mainly do when I have a really good photo, I know I shot it right, I got my aperture, my zoom, my exposure, whatever, I did it to the best of my ability. What I tend to do is I tend to use Lightroom and not really Photoshop, and they're both technically Photoshop, and one is Photoshop Lightroom. I have so many presets that I hardly ever do a full freestyle of editing, just using different tools to try and get the look that I want. I tend to just shoot from my presets now. I get my image in there, I might crop it, and get the angle right, because here's the other thing too. Adobe Lightroom does not support crop frame sensor lens correction. So if you're shooting a lot of squared images that have to be squared and I don't know how to explain this. If you're shooting a lot of subjects that the geometry has to be correct, you're gonna have a lot of image warping, and a lot of things that should be straight are gonna be warped. And you don't have any real way to get around that. How I usually get around it is I've had issues where I was shooting a skyline, I was shooting tall buildings in the distance, and what I did was I would crop the image, and in the crop I would take the image and just align it so that something, it depends on what you want that subject to be, is actually straight and the rest of it is all warped up. So there's no way to get around that. Maybe if you use a different lens you would get a different result, but a crop frame micro four thirds is not supported in Lightroom. So other than that, the only other thing that I do is adjust my exposure. I add colors, make sure my colors are correct, and I tend to work with my shadows tone curve tool, and I'm able to get a very shadowy kind of moody look in my photos. That's what I tend to go for. That's what I like a lot. I'm not even sure if a lot of people like that. On my Big Cartel, I have some Lightroom presets there that you guys should go ahead and check out that I used in a collaboration video. I was giving the photos a look that would be just more appealing to the general population of people, and not so much the artistically minded people. I'm making the colors a little bit more punchy, making the blacks a little deeper, brightening the photo a bit, and just giving it a refreshing look. And then I have something that's more artistic and different set of colors, kind of changes the temperature, maybe the season. If you guys like a particular image on my Instagram and I should sell a preset, then hit me through the DMs and let me know, and I'll put one on my Big Cartel website where you guys can go ahead and download those Lightroom presets and use your Lightroom edits. That way you don't even have to edit much, you just use the preset. So yeah, that's it. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell me what you guys think, and give me some feedback. If any of this stuff works, tell me if it doesn't work. See you guys in the next video. Peace, love.